Hi, I'm Coach Hallis, and welcome to episode 34 of the Keeping It Real vlog. This is week 4 that we just finished in the fourth quarter, so we are pretty much at the functional halfway point of the quarter. There's only a few weeks left for seniors in this year, and we're getting to a crunch point in the project where most of the students have most of their lists done. Some have some that they need to still fill in a few spots. Obviously, that work is late. Right now, all of our lists are due or past due, and so some are still finishing up parts. Some are farther behind than others, but we are wrapping up that part and moving into the phase where they are transitioning their initial lists, which essentially functions like a first draft, on which I've given them feedback and suggestions. A lot of still like knowing the difference between describing what a thing is and explaining why people should learn it, read it, see it, listen to it, etc. But getting feedback and then transitioning that into the final draft, which is going to be their websites themselves. So I did kind of have an aha moment of, again, this is the first time I've done this project, so whenever you're doing it, you're kind of like evaluating as you go along and reflecting as you go along week by week, which is kind of what this is. I kind of realized that some of that process is a little tedious to go from their, maybe it's just the amount of time that they're doing it in, but to go from I submitted this thing, I looked up all this stuff, I put it in this Google Doc where I was able to give them feedback, and that's great. But then to a lot of what they're doing in their website is copying and pasting things. So, if I'm going to do this project again, that's one thing that I would think about is how can I reconcile that, or what are some ways. I don't want them to necessarily just put it directly into a website without having the ability to leave them the kind of comments and features that I can in Google Docs, or make suggested edits and things like that. It's a really powerful tool, but I don't find out ways that I could make it less tedious for them to then copy and paste a lot of those things from that into another thing. My way of dealing with it in the moment, because I don't want kids to be bored or doing something that's tedious, is I've helped them with it. So while they're in class and they're working on their first versions of their lists and they're getting their things together, I'm helping like each kid kind of transition the things that they already wrote, and I'm just kind of helping copying and pasting it into their websites, and then they have to go in and make sure that they do their edits. Obviously, I'm not writing anything for them, but I can help just copy and paste and move some things over for them. So I've kind of been helping them with that, just because I don't want them to be doing bored, tedious work that isn't particularly useful. I want them to focus on editing. I want them to focus on making something better. I want them to focus on their final draft being a better version of their first draft, and just copying and pasting so many categories, with each one of these lists having 5 to 10 things on it, and each of those things having a title and an explanation. And then in their website, they have to find the for some of these things like films, they have to give the director and the year that it came out. And in their like songs and YouTube videos, they have to go find links and hyperlink those things. So that's the stuff that I want them to focus on. Like, what is this? How am I making this better? How am I upgrading this, rather than just copying and pasting the stuff they've already found? So I've been helping them with that this time. I don't know what the solution is, but that's something that I'll think about over the summer if I like this project and want to do something like it again. They are they've been talking to their people, which is a good thing. It's kind of one of the goals with this project, was getting them to reach out to their families, talk to their friends, talk to their teachers. Several kids have either spoken directly with teachers, or they've shown me emails that they sent to teachers they've had before. Emailing an old history teacher, or hey, my football coach is a history teacher. Let me reach out to him. Let me go see him in the hall. Let me send him an email, and find out what historical figures should I look into, and things like that. So I know that a couple of kids got book recommendations from their parents. I did a couple of home visits this week, and At one time when I was visiting the home, the kid had a book out and was reading something recommended by her parents. So the a benefit of this project being to not rely on just stuff that you've seen as a 17 or 18-year-old, but to go talk to different people in the way that the boy in our story was doing, to go talk to that we launched our project with, to go talk to different people, different generations, people who have different perspectives than you, and to be open to learning about things that will be valuable to different people. So there's that. And we went over, I think I mentioned last week, I showed them the how to start tracing images in this free software that we have. And now that we are done with the lists, or we're supposed to be done with the list, and they're working on transitioning to their website, we have a couple of days in the upcoming week where they're going to be thinking about their collage and how does all this stuff that we found fit into this collage. I've also reached out for help from from other adults in the building, particularly ones who have some kind of relationship with certain kids that I know in my class, and in some cases just people who have other roles like counselors and things like that can come in and do the last part, which is going to be, well, last being either when we have all the collages assembled and we present this thing, or the individual grilling of each student. And that's the last part I want to talk about. I'll talk about Dr. Lamb's visit after she does it next week. But thinking about how did I want this last part to work, where an adult sees their website, comes and talks to them, and essentially gets them to elaborate and defend, like, yeah, I put this thing at 3 instead of 2 because of this, or I can talk a little bit about this poem that I've read, or I can elaborate on why I chose this historical figure, whatever it is. The essence, the valuable thing about that is, in addition to standing by what it is, and to make it so you can't just like Google these lists, but you have to be able to defend and elaborate beyond the thing that you write in a scripted fashion, is the ability to have conversations with adults, the ability to have conversations that aren't practiced. So many things, it's in school we give presentations. That's not a super high bar. It's not as high of a bar as we think it is. Sure, they have to do a little bit of public speaking. They have to stand and maybe read a PowerPoint presentation, which can be intimidating, but that's an early level of basically you're just reading out loud, right? And the next level is maybe it's like writing a speech like they did with their $10 challenge, where they had to write a complete speech, and they're not just reading bullet points out loud, but they're still reading something out loud to people. And obviously that's a challenge as well. But my hope with this is at the end of their senior year, they can actually have conversations with adults that are not scripted, that are not prepared, where they have to react and respond in the moment. So I kind of waffled on how is this going to look? What's this going to look like? Am I going to have them come in and sit in a hot seat in front of the class, and this is a thing in front of everybody? Am I going to have them in panels? Am I going to have multiple adults in the room at the same time, and they're all having these individual conversations at once? And what I've kind of landed on is I'm going to set up opportunities so that they can have these one-on-one conversations without anybody else watching, including me. So I'm going to, this is my way of, it's our last project. I'm going to let go. I'm not going to be there for you. I can't help you out. I can't bail you out. It's not about the public all watching you and having that kind of pressure, but there is going to be the pressure of going into a room, like the counselor's office, for example. It's not like a dark closet with a intimidation lamp in your face, but you're going to go into a classroom or an office with just you and that adult's going to ask you a few questions, and you have to have that conversation with them. And then I'll ask the adult to basically fill out a form that tells me how they would rate their response, which will be a part of their grade, and some feedback that they will offer to the student, and that'll be the last thing that we do. So that is what it's looking like. I pretty much have enough volunteers right now to do that with each student. So each volunteer will have 1 or 2 people, and that will be the thing that we use to wrap it up. So we've got to finish our drafts of our collage this at the start of this week. In the middle of this week, we're getting some help from a local artist expert to finalize those things. The end of this week, start of next week, we'll be finalizing those collages and then laser engraving them to put into our art piece. And then at the very end, they will have to defend their choices. So that's where we are as of week 4 of quarter 4.